Da 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 da. Hello, everybody. It's Friday. It's midday, which means one thing only. It's Wow Ergonomics with myself, Graham Coath, and Stephen Howe. And you've got a very corporate background today.
I did. I was sort of Happy New Year, everyone. By the way, before we get into it, we're soon doing a few changes to this room that I'm in, and it's a bit of a bomb site behind. So I was sort of trying a few different things, blurred, and then like a red brick wall, and then I came across this one, and I thought, you know what, we'll go corporate for the first one, and let's see if it lasts. If people prefer the fun backgrounds, then we can revert to them. But we are going corporate for episode 1 of 2024.
Corporate with your blue hoodie.
Yeah, sort of corporate. Half corporate, half. It's Friday, isn't it? Well, it's after lunch on a Friday, Graham. So we're easing into the weekend, aren't we?
It's corporate dress down day.
Yeah.
We should talk about dress down days actually with our special guest who's coming. Now you may have seen that change to our advertised guest for today.
Yes.
The young lady that was going to be on today, unfortunately, had to leave us today because her dog's not very well. So I hope your dog does get better. We'll hopefully see her another week. But stepping into the breach at the last minute, thank you so much. We do have wonderful Lee Truman, which is a great name. Truman, but not as in Truman, as in the Truman Show.
No.
You get that a lot though, yeah?
Every day. And there's also an extra E in there. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping that one day it's not going to be revealed that there's cameras everywhere and this whole life has been a stage. But if it is, I'll then ask for the royalties. So win-win.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, because life is a bit like that, though, isn't it? I mean, in as much as there are cameras everywhere all of the time. But those cameras are typically on the back of these things, aren't they?
Yeah, it's. I think if we had the Truman Show now, it would be a lot more kind of like likely to happen. When was Truman Show? Is that like 2012 maybe?
Yeah.
Do you reckon? Do you know what I was thinking?
Maybe
it was
older
early
than that.
2000s. Hang on a second.
Let's use our old friend. Yeah. Other search engines are available.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a second. Now here we go. Right. I know the answer. I'll open it up to you both. Come on, then. Who can get closest? When was the Truman Show originally
released? I'm going to go 2006.
Okay. Lee, sticking with 2012 or?
Yeah, I think so. But it could be a lot earlier than that. I'm just trying to think what else was around when it was out. No, let's go. 2010. Let's go
2010, 2006. Not one of you is within 8 years of it. Graham is closest. It was 1998.
No.
Yep.
That's crazy.
26 years ago.
It just goes to show you that time just goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yeah. I wouldn't. I'd have said early. I was thinking 2004, 2005 when we first threw it out there. I wouldn't have picked 98 either, like you guys didn't.
Yeah, I mean, if you showed the people in 98 the tech that we've got today, it would just blow the mind. I've seen a post a little bit earlier about Steve Jobs announcing the first iPhone and him just doing these slides to unlock things. The crowd was like, ooh.
Yeah.
It just goes to show. And I've seen not too long ago advert about Burger King first starting doing card payments, and everyone's saying it's never going to work. It's going to destroy the business. Don't want to pay for a burger with a credit card. And you're like, the idea of people like being wowed by credit card payments being accepted or debit card payments being accepted in fast food is just like.
I know. I can remember being told in school about during the war when they first started airing in cinemas, because people didn't have TVs. Yeah. They first started airing at cinemas footage of Germans invading, right? And people were running out the cinemas because they actually believed that these moving pictures were real. Yeah. So the thing is, we take it all for granted these days. Don't we? Take everything for granted.
Was this the radio show? Was it War of the Worlds, the first radio show where people thought it was like something was actually happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people watch this and wonder when something is going to happen. But there we go. I mean, it's
every week.
It's all very similar. But no, it's interesting. It's interesting you should say that, or it's interesting we're talking about the Truman Show, and these things, because these days, I mean, you even get TV these days that's kind of made on handheld video devices or whatever. I mean, look at all of those TV shows for like the police, ambulance, whatever, which are all filmed on like little
body
cams and attached. But then you get other shows where they now use a mixture of proper camera and video footage, which has come off of it. You just don't know. As you say, like the Truman Show could really, because you could literally step out of your house. Well, what we're doing is we're seeing that on social media. Some families make their money out of literally filming everything, absolutely everything. Which is a good topic to talk about with Lee here, because obviously, you know, it feeds into the whole thing about mental health, doesn't it? I mean, if you can't escape from that, how do you stay sane?
Yeah, and that's the kind of like perverse nature of it, isn't it? Because we're in a world where we're connected more than we ever have, but we're also lonelier than we ever have been before. Because we've got instant connections, it's just a weird kind of like scenario, isn't it?
Absolutely. Lee, tell everybody a little bit about you so that they understand what it is that you do, and understand why you've got the credentials to talk about mobile phones and mental health.
Yeah, so bit of a mixed bag. So I was brought up in, and you might not be able to tell it by the accent, I'm in Yeovil, but I was brought up in Thatcher's Liverpool. So South Liverpool, very, very tough. Again, schooling wasn't great, so I ended up leaving about 15 with no qualifications. Still don't have any. Never gained any across the way, just life experience. And I just started working. I think my first job at 15 was walking around industrial estates selling paper, which was a hard sell.
Paper? Did you say paper?
Yeah, paper, things that people used to write on and make notes.
Oh, and do you know what? This is unbelievable. Right, so we've both got that in common.
Yeah,
right?
We've all got that in common.
You've got that in common as well. But I literally, my first sales job was for a paper merchants. Your first sales job was, Steve?
Metal, then paper.
Metal,
after that.
Then paper.
Metal,
there you go.
Then paper. So we've all done a bit of flog and paper around industrial estates.
Rock, paper,
that
scissors.
is a tough gig.
We haven't sold rocks. None of us have sold rocks, but we've sold the others.
No, that's Jenny from the block. Yeah. And then just done some of the worst sales jobs out there. So I don't know if anyone remembers timeshares, but I had a job selling timeshares before.
My word.
That was brutal. I think, what was I, 16, 17 when I was selling that. I had a bit of a kind of blip when I was 19, so I was going into the army, and I was doing boxing at the time, so I was super fit. So the physicals passed really easy. Medicals come back that there was some protein in the urine sample, so had to go and see the doctors. And the army medic said, "I can't see any blood," and they're like, "Doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. You don't see it all the time." So I went to doctors and got diagnosed with cancer. So that was 19. But luckily, and people always say to me, "Why are you so positive? Why is everything always awesome?" It's like, because I was diagnosed with cancer at 19. All right, I shouldn't really be here. So every day after that, so I went to the doctors because it was so early. It was a kidney, so they said, "We can either give you chemo, go through the treatment, or we can just whip the kidney out. It's isolated to that." So yeah, whipped the kidney out and made a full recovery. So that kind of led to my first kind of like mental health battle, because when you hear the cancer word, when you hear that, you kind of like do all the mental gymnastics that you're doing. I'm gonna die. And then when I got the all clear, it kind of made me angry, because you get to that point where you've like accepted the fact that there's this demise come in, and then it doesn't. So it kind of like then kind of led to a bit of a sort of an angry period. Also being kind of brought up with me nan. Nan was a little Irish lady, Vera Caffrey. And there's that old joke, isn't it? What's the capital of Ireland? Liverpool. So again, yeah, she had quite severe depression, but it was hidden from us as kids. So it was always like, Nan's not right, she's not well, and she'd be locked up in a room, and then occasionally she'd have to go into hospital. And we always remember Nan fell down the stairs at one point and broke a leg. We all went to the hospital, and it was a fun time. Probably not for me Nan with a broken leg, but us kids loved it, signing the cast and stuff like that. So we heard she was going to the hospital. Can we go and see? No, you can't go and see, because obviously it wasn't a physical hospital. It was a mental health hospital. So, and that's kind of why I'm so passionate about mental health. I've had my own imposter syndrome from time to time, which is just a normal reaction for being outside of your kind of like comfort zone, because the brain's not made for us to succeed. The brain is there for us to survive. So the brain loves familiarity. It loves the stuff that you do every day. When you're like, I'm going to go over there and talk on that stage in front of all these people, the brain's like, I'd rather we didn't. I'd rather we just stayed over here. So again, imposter syndrome, level of anxiety, obviously being in a sales role, it's kind of like high pressure. So and it really come when I sort of first stepped into the social care space. So I am a tech salesperson with absolutely no clue about technology. I know what we do, I know how it makes people's lives better, but again, I'm not a tech, I'm a people person. So I think when I started leading sales teams, it was the pressure that salespeople get under, and there's pressure in all sorts of different environments. But we all know that in sales, if you're not hitting your KPIs, you're only a month away from being out the door. So it really started there of how I could sort of maintain people's mental health to a certain degree, while also having those KPIs, because it's a sales environment. We need to, you need to hit targets. If you're not hitting targets, then there's always that kind of pressure there. So it's about how we maintain that, and sort of just looking at kind of like, if you've got a 5-day week and someone's under stress, under pressure, would you rather have 25% output for 5 days, or would you rather give them a day off to help and then have 4 days where they're 100%? Not only is the right thing to do to look after people's mental health, but it makes so much business sense as well. It just, and again, just trying to break that stigma. And I do think we're in kind of a tricky period, because I think we've got like the old guard who will probably think, well, people are talking about mental health, that's it, that's all we need to do, it's done. We're only really at the base camp. There's so much about mental health, neurodiversity, that we still don't understand the real dangers. People are going to think, yeah, that's it, job's done. But I know people who have tried to get help for a chap I mentor used to work for me. He's got borderline personality disorder. One of his triggers was rejection, so sales was just never going to work for him.
No.
But even he's working in a factory, a much more suitable environment for him. But even him, he's called up 111 and tried to get help, and they just try to be happy, keep your chin up, try to smile. And I'm like, why do people say these things? So I think we're still in a bit where we need to push forward. We need to kind of like just keep fighting that good fight, and until a broken leg and a broken head, so to speak, are treated the same way, then there's still job to be done. There's still work to be done. And I think it's our job as leaders to just be open about our battles with mental health, really.
Lee, we've sort of spoke a number of times on different impacts of COVID. When we've done this show, we've discussed various impacts of COVID, but has that really sort of shone a light on the whole mental health situation, because it became something that was just hitting a wider audience and more people were exposed to those because of the issues we had around COVID, do you think?
I mean, COVID did bring to light quite a few things. So it was a horrible thing. I mean, no one would say anything different. But I think things like remote working, it helped that bring to the forefront, and now companies can get amazing talent that they probably couldn't have got before because they can work remotely. I work in Yeovil, offices in Norfolk, so just a little bit of a distance.
That's a trek.
Small commute, yeah.
So yeah, if I was doing that small commute every day, it just wouldn't be possible. But now I can work remotely. We've got Teams, got Zoom, stuff like that. But also, like you say, the mental health thing was brought to the forefront because there was lots of people struggling before, and it was tough. But when they were all of a sudden said, "See that front door? You can't go out there anymore. Only if you want to get shopping." And people who kind of like had minor mental health problems was all kind of like brought to the forefront. So I think COVID did help us with that kind of conversation and getting out there. Yeah, I think there was a few things that come out of COVID that were really, really good.
Well, I think we had time to think about stuff within COVID as well, and we probably had more time than ever to actually stop and talk about stuff. So I think that was an important part of it as well, that we actually had time to have the conversations that perhaps should have been had before, but which were never had. So I do think that it probably helped to bring things to the fore, but those issues were always there. One of the things with regards to mental health, which I think has always been difficult for any business, is that actually businesses have to make money, right?
Yeah.
And I think therefore, when you sit down, traditionally, when management have sat down to look at productivity, looking at productivity with sort of gaps of not doing stuff is quite difficult to compute in most people's brains, because we've been traditionally kind of been sort of taught about, you know, being as productive as possible within a working week. And I think one of the problems is in trying to get this stuff sorted now, we're blurring the lines of a lot of traditional ways of taking time elements and understanding those time elements.
Yeah.
As you just said, Lee, you know, for some people, and this is the other thing, what makes it really hard for organizations is it's not the same for everyone. So for some people, it might be that it's really good to work 4 days a week and have a day off. For other people, it might work more like this. It might work, well, actually, I want to work 7 days a week, but actually I want to choose to be sort of more part-time over the 7 days. And that's a headache for an organization, because an organization has then got to have a way of enabling all of that difference.
Yeah, it's got to be possible to scale. And that kind of, it's just a little bit. And I think as well with the first generation, it's had this work-life balance. Because if we think about, and I don't mean generation X or Z or Y or whatever label we want to throw on them, I mean this kind of like whole working generation, whether you're 60 or 20. And with the first generation, is okay to work at home, because you've kind of like, the previous generation wants to work from home. They'd have to take folders, files, filing cabinets, big typewriter home. We just take this and we can work from home, or a little laptop. So it's the first kind of like, so the playbook doesn't exist for what is a healthy work-life balance, because we're just finding our feet.
Do you think it's going to become, both of you, do you think it's going to become more and more difficult for companies to employ people? In as much as, do you think as we move through the generations now, we are going to actually move away from work-life balance to, you know, with generation alpha and whatever it's going to be? Is it alpha, beta? Will it be generation beta? Yeah, because that's an interesting term, isn't it, beta? Because, you know, I'm generation beta. That means I'm not really a proper generation. I'm just in test. Anyway, with those generations coming through, do you think actually what they will look for is they will look really hard at the type of job. So that actually it's not about necessarily, which hours do I work, which hours do I have off, but it becomes more and more important that I'm only going to do something that I actually really love, because if I really love it and it doesn't feel like work, then I've actually got, if you like, work-life integration. I can choose. I want to do it, be able to do it flexible. I want to do it when I want to do it throughout the week. As long as I get my goals achieved and the objectives achieved, that's great. But I want to do something that I really love. And that way, if I want to go the extra mile and I want to put work a bit later into the night or whatever, I'm going to enjoy doing it because I feel passionate about it. Do you think that's going to be, but that's going to really cause a chasm somewhere, because there will be loads of jobs that people just won't want to do.
Yeah. I think Lee made a really interesting point there. He was talking about the remote working. I think that implementation of remote working in COVID, for me, sort of burst the dam in terms of people then became able to do like Lee's doing, Yeovil and Norwich. It opened up, it sort of blew geography out the water as a defining point about the job. And as soon as you'd done that, it then just opened everything up, that almost employees then had such a wider pool of jobs they could go for, that it allowed them to be a lot more selective. And I think that's what it's done for me so far, is it's opened up, I think it's good, it's opened up more opportunities for individuals, but I think for organizations, it's widened the talent pool from which they can pick from. So they're not just restricted to the people who live within a 15-mile radius of Yeovil town centre. Actually, they could, or Norwich or whatever, they can pick someone wherever in the UK, providing they've got the technology to allow them to do that. And the technology, as we acknowledged, is absolutely there. So I think that's what I've noticed, is the fact that it's widened it up. And then the next phase will be, people will be very more selective as what they want to do. And as you say, Graham, you'll then potentially, employers are going to have problems filling certain positions, because what that job requires, there is a diminishing pool of people who are prepared to, for example, go and work 8 till 5 in the office every day. So that's their challenge, is going to be, well, if that job means I have to come in every day of the week, there's going to be less and less people who are willing and interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've already seen it with the people kind of like needing that purpose. And I think there's a lot of I hate Mondays. And I think if you've got a job you enjoy doing, it's not, Mondays isn't a kind of grind. It's not a thing. It's just you get up and you're enjoying doing it. Again, that's what I do. I don't mind. I was on holiday over New Year, and it was the first time I'd gone on holiday without a laptop, other than being told off by my Russian missus. What are you working for? Apology, my missus doesn't sound that Russian, but I always like to assume she does. But yeah, she tells me off. But I had a company wanted a 7:30 demo, and it was last time I was in Mallorca, and that it was 8:30 in Spanish time, so she wasn't happy about it. But I loved it. Really enjoyed getting to speak to them, doing a demo, and it was, like I say, demo from a laptop in a hotel room. Yeah, it was fun, and because I really enjoy doing what I do, believe the software helps social care companies, who then help the most vulnerable in our society. I enjoy doing it. Love getting out to work, love getting out of bed, doing work, love going to the big exhibitions, big trade shows, and just speaking to people. So for me, it is a little bit cliche, but it's not really like work. It's just, something I get paid to do, but there's also kind of like it's there, reinforces the why. And I think we're going to see more and more of people just picking and choosing a job they want to do because it's something they love. And then there's jobs that people might not love to do. So I think there's going to be some vocations that are going to be quite hard to fill, because it doesn't doesn't gel with the people's why.
Does it then, though? Does the impact then become, Lee, is that in those roles that people want to do, maybe don't want to do, actually they become better paid positions, because to tempt people to do that, you've got to up the salary. So it could mean jobs that previously put people off, actually, to get someone to do that, you've got to pay them a damn sight more. And therefore, if you're happy to do that, you're going to be more, financially rewarded, possibly.
I mean, and I could be wrong, but something like, so empty bins, I'm not sure if that's anyone's why. It could be. I could be completely wrong, but and what's the future of those vocations that might not have that purpose to them? We've got AI coming through. We've got Elon Musk trying to like automate the world. So are bins emptied by AI and self-driving cars, self-driving bins? You have to put your bin in a certain kind of square, empties it, puts it down. Is that the future for those type of
I think you're partly right there. I do think that what we'll probably see is technology reduce the number of people involved in those processes. So I'm pretty certain in years to come, we probably will see a more robotic process, for example, to something like collecting the litter, where maybe there's one person overseeing it, but there's actually something to do the heavy lifting and putting it in and everything else, and it's just somebody making sure that it's all working properly and all going to plan. I mean, actually, there was a documentary on the TV over Christmas. I don't know whether you saw it, an Amazon in the warehouse documentary, where they were showing like the new robots that Amazon had to keep up with the demand of picking, etc. And basically, these robots they looked like they were being moved around on those electric Hoover things that you get in the home. One of those under each of these different cages, as it were. And these cages were just, whilst someone was talking in the foreground, these cages were just almost bumping into each other in the background, moving from here to there. But it was just taking away the job of someone that would have been walking up and down a warehouse and picking stuff. But that it still required some humans involved to manage the process. But there was a bit of the process that now no longer needed humans. So I'm sure some of those jobs will disappear, and we will create other jobs, because we'll need to promote all of these things, and the speed of service and everything else will get faster. So there will be more people involved in more of the front end of these things, and maybe more creative positions, etc., as well, as we need to tell everybody in the world about it. Here's one for you then. Do we think, actually, and that this was actually a report that I read in one newspaper over the Christmas period as well, that one of the predictions is that we will all in the future work less, and actually we will all accept less money, right? But actually, one of the things that we might look for, I know, but one of the things that we might look for is we might start to look for, but maybe it's the generations coming through that they really pertain to. We'll actually start to look for, given things like the housing situation and the cost of living and whatever else as well, maybe people won't own their own homes. Maybe they're share homes. Maybe we'll go back to sort of, having a room in a house or things like that for a lot of people. And actually, people will look for a job where perhaps they can do less in the day and have more time for other things, and then actually we overcome some of the issues around flexibility by just having more shared roles, where actually more than one person does that role. And actually, Jimmy wants to work nights, this person wants to work days, this person wants to work a few hours in the middle of the day, and actually we'll share it out. Is it a possibility?
I think so, and I think we've seen LinkedIn get a lot more popular. There's a lot of people out there now who have side hustles. And I think that's what we need to do. So obviously, there's a salary there as a safety net to make sure that things like your rent's paid, because unfortunately the kids have got used to having a roof over their head. They're not that keen to
No, don't want to go to the box. No.
no. And they've got accustomed to food. So
Oh, really?
How rude of them.
Yeah, tell me about it. But anyway, there's kind of like salaries that we need to kind of like the bare minimums covered. But then I think we'll see a lot more of the kind of like side hustle nature. And I think that's kind of like where it's going. If anyone's got a skill now, they've got the platforms to kind of get themselves out there and just make some money for them and the families from something that they enjoy doing. So I can definitely see 4-day. I mean, 4-day weeks have been talking about now for quite a while. I think there's some kind of vocations that would work in, some that won't. And I think it's about a lot of things that we're talking about. It's not a one size fits all. I love working. I love what I do. Really enjoy it. It's never a chore. So for me, 5 days is perfect. I enjoy it, and then occasionally do work at the weekend. But for other people, a 4-day week, 3-day week is their idea of heaven.
Yeah.
And that ties in again with the whole mental health thing that you were talking about. Is actually, if you then start imposing some elements of flexibility, actually you could alienate a whole other section of the workforce. Like Lee said, the 5-day week works great for him. If he was told by his boss, you're working 4 days, I'm going to make sure your laptop doesn't work, it can't switch on days 5, 6, and 7, that's going to be a challenge for you. But actually, as you say, some people would sort of revel in that situation, but you then create issues for another group of people.
Yeah. And I read, I can't remember where it was, a Scandinavian country where they restricted access to emails from 5 p.m. onwards.
Oh, yes, I saw that over the holidays as well, yeah.
Really good intention, really good plans. But what it did, it caused anxiety for a lot of people. So I know that if I can't check my emails, I can't check my laptop if there's something that's there. And I'm like, it's like Schrodinger's email, isn't it? Until it's opened, you don't know where it is. And it just, for me, it causes a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress, stopping me from working. So it's finding, and again, it's what we need to get to. There's not a one size fits all. It's understand your people. And I had a young girl who worked for me, really, really great at what she did because she was a good solution seller. But she had really bad social anxiety, very much an introvert. And it was very hard to find a next role for her because she was really, really talented. But getting her, because of social anxiety, because of low confidence, things like that, getting her to manage a team was not the right way. What we did, we found a kind of a RevOps role, and this was in like 2016 maybe. So RevOps wasn't that popular then, but that was a role that suited her. But the linear path is like salesperson, sales manager, sales director, which it doesn't always work. Just because you're a great salesperson, it doesn't mean you've got those skills to look after people, because we need to be able to, when we're managing people, read what people need. Because some people, like I'm one, for instance, if I've asked a question, a quick Slack message, that's fine, I'm on my way again. But there's some people who need, when they've got a concern or a problem, they need a phone call, they need a meeting, they need to sit down with them, be patient. And I think, there's a skill set there that's missing. And I think we try to force square pegs into round holes too much when we talk about career progression.
This might be one for Gemma Nice, who we've had on the show before, who, if you don't know Gemma from LinkedIn, is a relationship expert. But it'd be quite interesting to know how this is affecting relationships. I mean, you mentioned earlier, and I know it's partly in jest, but about the other half having a go at you for doing a bit of work, etc. But we've all been there. We've all had to do a bit of work at some time or wherever that's kind of outside of hours, etc. And also, you know, I suppose we've grown up in an age which has understood that once responsibilities come online, like children and, relationships and everything else, you kind of make time for those other people, and rightly so. But is it gonna change the nature of how people think about relationships going forward? And is it actually going to decrease the population going forward as well, if people are going to think, actually, in order to maintain the kind of mental health that I need, and maintain the kind of lifestyle that actually will work for me in terms of flexibility, I want to be in a relationship, or I want to have a situation where I can duck in and out of work and do it when I like, because actually there's good sides to that, but in the other, when you then bring other people into that, it can be seen as quite selfish. But not if you all buy into it. It's a difficult one, I think, and I think this is going to be one area that people are really going to struggle with going forward as well. I think management are struggling with it, but I think people are struggling with it in terms of, how do you keep those balances at home?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I think I know Gemma. Hello, Gemma. So yeah, I think it's about getting to the bottom of that relationship, and it's always about communication, isn't it? Because you sometimes have to sit down, and it's about compromises. So I do work, I give the other half the car to go shopping. Everyone's happy. But again, yeah, she likes shiny things. Yeah, give her the car, and that way she knows that I'm going to make sure that the demo's quite quick, because I don't want her out there in the wild too long with the card. But yeah, understanding kind of like each other. I know she wants to have a holiday. She wants to unwind, relax. I know that I've got kind of like deals I'm working on, and some people, for instance, those couple, the demo I did it was someone with a new startup business. He was a head teacher of a special needs school, moving into the respite space. And this is why I was so keen to do the demo, is head teacher of a special needs school in London. Respite, for anyone who doesn't know, is what sounds like you kind of have care to give the parents like an hour or two, a day or two off, to kind of like, sometimes it's doing stuff they like, sometimes it's just doing the dishes and the housework, because if you've got a severely disabled child, then it's hard to find time to do that. And the guy in question was telling me that he spoke to some of the children, and they're just kind of like, the care was like sugar. It was like kind of like junk food care. So they pop them in front of the TV, give them a phone, fill them up with junk food, and then take them back. So his idea was to do respite care, but for it to have a kind of like long-term benefit. So teach them those life skills. So if it's an autistic person, teach them the triggers, give them real life skills. So he was working until about 6 o'clock. So then that demo it needed to be out of hours because of his hectic schedule. And I was so bought into his mission that for me, it was a really enjoyable kind of like, really enjoyable demo, really enjoyable thing. But kind of like explaining that to someone external isn't always easy. And it's the way it went in the end is I sat down and I told the story like I've just told you guys, just to kind of like, and then she understood a little bit more. It wasn't a kind of like a demo that could have waited till next week, or that could have been done at 4 p.m. So once the other person understands, and it's about, I don't know if any of you guys have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. But one of the habits in that, really recommend that book. It's really good for both personal and professional. But one of the habits is seek first to understand and then be understood. So I think that's a really important concept of it. Is if I just said, listen, I'm doing a demo, I need to do it, just leave me alone, then
Mhm.
that would have caused this kind of whole kind of like, yeah, whole effect. I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but would have like, yeah,
Mm.
escalated. That's probably the one. But because I explained why I needed to do this at this point and why I wanted to do it, she was
Mm.
happy as long as she went out and did a little bit of shopping while I was doing that.
Yeah, I wonder whether it'll actually drive technology, and I wonder whether it will actually drive almost some kind of weird future for us all as well, where in a way we might actually find more and more ways of replacing ourselves, which is now, just bear with me on this though, but think about it actually, especially if you look at things like AI. We're
Mhm.
not too far now. I mean, you can make there's training software that uses AI now, where you can record yourself doing a training program, and then it creates an avatar of yourself, and then you can feed it like an alternative situation, and it
Okay.
will bring that into the script. So, take Lee's demonstration
Mm.
in the future. It might not be Lee on a Zoom call. It might be AI version of Lee who actually
Yeah.
looks like Lee and is acting absolutely like Lee, but it's got some, can actually interact with the people on the other end and answer all sorts of questions because it's learned from Lee.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Yeah.
And
We could be
that's,
replaced, Graham. We could this show could be replaced by AI versions of
you and I might be down the pub right now. This might not be us.
No,
This,
it's not.
it might just be Avatar, Graham and Stephen interviewing Lee, which might be. Don't rule any of this out.
No,
No.
I think there's a few good points there. So Health Automated created Architecture, which is a 2024 care management platform. So drag and drop, gone away. It's all kind of like AI down its core. So I know some of the benefits it can have, rostering, doing the invoicing, but also things like with service users for people who may be non-verbal or maybe not respond. There's also where you can take a picture of them and the AI will kind of like scan the face and it will give you, are they in pain, are they happy, and stuff like that. And again, we've got stuff in the platform that's about kind of decline. So again, what are the indications that this person's declining? And there's a lot of stuff like that. I've seen a call for Tesla on YouTube that's made completely by AI. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but
No.
it's an AI sales call, and it's spookily good. The only way you can tell it's AI is minute pauses from when the prospect speaks to when it responds. But
Okay.
a good salespeople person will pause. So again, it's a kind of really interesting future where we're going. Again,
Do you think we'll see more of that in what in your area, Stephen? Do you think in the future we might see? I mean, it's got at the top, work smart, feel good. You've got a piece of software at the moment which takes some input, etc. And but it's still at the moment it's still kind of you need to interact with it kind of manually, etc.
Yeah.
But do you think in the future, because the technology will get cheaper, you might actually have some kind of camera, or you might even be able to utilize the webcam on every desk or whatever, and it might just sit there and look at what someone's doing, and it will go, "You're not sitting right. You're doing this wrong.
Yeah.
Why is that there?" And it actually might prompt throughout,
Yeah.
and actually help assess as you go along.
So almost like an AI DSE assessment's what you're thinking, Graham, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah.
So it's not that snapshot of someone coming and doing an assessment. It's over a period of time, some sort of AI assessment of what you're doing to absolutely nail down what those issues are. Absolutely. I mean, we had a meeting before Christmas and we discussed about new products and things like that. And AI was absolutely on our list of one of the things that we expected would come into our sphere as a manufacturer of products. Would that at some point AI, we couldn't define it where it would be, but it absolutely will have a part to play in what we do going forward as a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I think some of the stuff that I've seen since joining Health Automated. Sat down with Jack White. He's our founder, not from the White Stripes, but we probably going to.
But that would be cool.
That would be cooler, but he's such a nice guy. But we are trying to build a 7-nation army.
Love it.
Someone say he rang my doorbell. But yeah, seeing the technology there and how much it makes life easier. Because right now, if I want to listen to some music, I'm not going to pick up my phone and go through Spotify. I'm going to shout out to Alexa. Alexa sort it out. And that's some of the features that we've developed is that virtual assistant so you can ask it, who's the power of attorney for Mrs. Jones, and we'll go and get it rather than you needing to click, find it. Just ask the AI. So I think there's a lot of stuff there that's going on, but obviously there's that kind of like philosophy about work, isn't it? What you love to do, what you like to do, and what you need to do. And again, I think what we want to get to is the point where we want to spend 100% of our time on what we love to do and what we need to do. So like updating CRMs, taking notes, following up, prospecting, stuff that is just not that nice. Yeah. Can we automate that and spend the time just doing what we like to do? So again,
were you shaking your head there, Stephen, by the way, because you love doing that stuff?
No, I was sort of shaking my head in, yes, can we get that on board really, really quickly? Because that filling in and updating CRMs and Excels, I think, is any true salesperson's idea of hell. So
I mean, I don't know what CRMs everyone, but I remember using Salesforce, and it's just so hard. It's so clunky. Yeah. We use HubSpot. I've used HubSpot for a good few years now. I love HubSpot.
Just to defend Salesforce there, by the way, in case you're watching. I mean, Salesforce is a great piece of kit, but it's like all things, it's quite complex and does a lot. So it really, then it depends on, is it the right bit of kit for the people that are using it? And I'm sure, with the right kind of training and the right kind of, input from them, then it would probably be a great solution. But I think half the time the problem is with things like CRMs and data input and whatever is there's too many cooks, right? Too many people telling you how to do it or whatever. Too much of a complicated process, and it just all goes to pot. Really, I mean, with the thing with data entry has always amazed me. The best way of getting data entry right, and we're starting to see this in shops now, is for the user to put the data in themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know whether, if you did any shopping over Christmas, you may have seen this, but several retailers now on the till, they turn the till round to you and they go, could you put your email address in there? We'll send you the receipt.
They do that at, is it Halfords?
Yeah.
I'm sure I bought something
HMV
for the car.
is another one where they do it.
Turn it around, put your, and the one now as well is, I mean, I've seen this a couple of times, maybe other people have seen it sooner, but when you go and pay for something, and how would you like your receipt? Would you like it by text? Would you like to print it, or would you like to email it? So of course, the emphasis is on you as the user is to get your email address correct into their piece of software, and they've got you.
Yeah, it's about kind of what's the customer's preference really. So I use a calendar booking link. So obviously one of the big things about what we do is getting people in for a demo. Happy to play email tennis to find the right date for them, but also put a signature, put an email, a link to the calendar in my email. So if they want to click on that, book it in at their own time, then yeah, I think we need to do kind of what's best for the customer. Obviously there's a lot of kind of drawbacks about tech. So my last role had company car, so managed to get a Tesla Model Y, which was really cool, integrated tech. So I had that for just over 14 months and did about 30,000 miles in it. So loved it to pieces. But I also have a horror story. So 320 miles at the time, the office was in Birmingham, so another tiny commute. So we had a trade show in London on the Wednesday. So I needed to go into the office in Birmingham to collect all the banners and collateral and stuff because the CEO at the time wanted to get the train. That's cool. I'll come to the office. We can have a coffee, grab the stuff. So 320 miles, 160 miles from Yeovil to Birmingham. So you can do the maths. It's going to make one way there. So did it, loaded the car up, got back, stopped at the supercharger, charged for about like 80 miles. So I'd have 80 miles when I got home. And then it was January. So I think last January was particularly cold at the beginning. So I think it was like -4 or something. So had 60 miles, enough to get me to Salisbury, which is the closest supercharger. But weather made the range drop down a little bit. So I was like, that's all right. I can still get there. I'm driving through Somerset, and one of the roads closed. So then I've got to go loop all the way back and take a detour. And I'm like, it pops up on the screen saying not enough charge to reach your charger. And I'm like, so what you do? Do you do a call tow truck now, or do I just put my foot down and see if it's like the old? Because we've all done that with the petrol light blinking, haven't we? We're all like, and now the next station's like 10p a litre cheaper. So yeah, I thought let's just see. And I stopped.
Roll the dice.
I'd rolled the dice, and I got like a mile.
Oh,
Supercharger, like the amount of time where you could like just walk to a petrol station, get a jerry can, walk back.
Yeah, but the thing is with petrol based or diesel based vehicles is that and we've all driven on fumes before now, but fumes will actually get you that extra little bit. But with electric cars, when they stop, they stop.
Yeah,
that's it. When it's empty, it really is empty. It's just like, imagine just if you haven't ever done it, just imagine driving on your mobile phone. Once that phone turns off,
it just goes.
It goes. Yeah, there's not. You can rub it all you like. You can scream at it, whatever. It ain't going to turn back on again.
It ain't moving.
It ain't moving. And we actually had it over Christmas. Just to pick up on your point there, we actually had it over here, and I actually ended up having to call the police. Lee, on one of the main roads through Chard for 3 days, electric car, just stopped. And actually, they called the RA. The police found out in the end. They called the RAC, and the RAC had come out, but the RAC couldn't do anything about it. It was so dead that they couldn't do it. So there was just this car stuck in the middle of the road.
It's just they don't move. They're so heavy. So fortunately, that wasn't the end of the story. So I then called, because I got a company car, so I got rid of AA and RAC. Because why do we need RAC or AA when I've got a new company car? So they wouldn't help me. Rang up the tow truck, and they're like £600 plus VAT. I was like, I don't want to pay that. But they've got you by the nether regions, haven't they? Because what's the other choice? So, and then he said, I'm going to be an hour. Had a message pop up on the screen saying the 12-volt battery, once the main battery dies, that will last about 10 minutes. And on Tesla, everything's electric, so it's kind of, they said there's a little release just here by the door, but only on the inside. And when that 12-volt battery dies, you can't use the door handles, you can't roll the windows up. So it said, if you need to get in and out of the car, keep your window rolled down. So I had to roll it down enough to like put my arm in. Like I said, it was -4. I was going to a trade show, so I'm not in winter gear. I'm in like jeans, a shirt, and a blazer. And it was going to be an hour, so it was like freezing. Just shaking there. It's a good job we had the phone so I could scroll through it to keep the mind occupied, because otherwise. Yeah. And then you get to the charger on a flatbed. And like you say, when you run out of petrol, you sneak back to your car with a little jerry can, just put it in and then drive. It's noticeable when you arrive to a supercharger on a flatbed. Beep, 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 beep. And everyone looks at you and you're like...
Everyone knows.
And then the issue is because it's gone really dead, you have to kind of like jumpstart it again. And that means taking half of the bonnet off the Tesla because they're not designed to do that.
No.
So, and this poor guy who was recovery truck didn't know what to do. He's like, I don't know how to do it. So I had to kind of like figure it out, and then eventually got going, and then it was all right. But that was quite fraught, quite traumatic. But yeah, and that's about infrastructure. We need to make sure that the infrastructure keeps pace with those tech advances, really.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty certain it's not, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna hit some roadblocks along the way. Very quickly to kind of end today as well. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Lee.
cheers, Lee.
Well, I one of the things I am seeing with the younger generation as well is a lot of them aren't learning to drive. Partly again because of the cost of buying vehicles, and as we get into not being able to buy, perhaps diesel vehicles probably first will go, and then petrol vehicles might disappear off the planet as well. If you can't afford a house, you're possibly not going to be able to afford a car in the future. Will we just see more people working in the locality and perhaps not traveling as far in jobs? And then does that change the nature of jobs? I think it probably will. So there you go. Oh, sorry to bring you dire news at the beginning of 2024. But no, it'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. When I'm older and we're retired and we're not doing this anymore, Stephen, we'll be able to look back on all of this material and we'll go, did we actually get any of it right, or was it wrong?
Yeah, of course we did. Of course we did.
Yeah, 100% success rate.
Yeah,
absolutely. You'll look back if you're watching this now in 2035. You're looking back and you're thinking, God, they were spot on, weren't they?
Yeah. We were the Truman Show of our time.
We were bringing it nicely back round. Lee, thank you so much for coming on. You've been a great guest. Thank you for talking to us today. Folks, this is it. This is the first show of 2024. We're going to keep you busy in 2024. We'll hopefully get you fit as well. We've got some great shows lined up. I can tell you that not next week, but the week after, we're going to have our friend Laura back on. Yes, and she's going to be joining us with the guys from Ergo Chair as well, who are going to be talking about the time that they went to measure Laura up and what that whole experience was like. So what it's like to have a chair fitting, which will be interesting. So if you want to find out what goes on when people have a chair fitting, that would be good. But until next week, we'll be back same time, same place, 12 o'clock on a Friday. Don't miss it. Bye for now. Thanks, Lee.